opportunity to do it for my underdogs. I'ma do this for my underdogs. I'ma do this for my underdogs. I'ma do this for my underdogs. Yeah, my underdogs.
Welcome back to the Rec Center podcast. We back for another great episode. We lined up a phenomenal guest for you. We switched it up a little bit. We got a lady hooper, but hey, actually, I've played a pickup game with her one time at Oakland High. She could beat a couple of the dudes, Lo.
I can't. I believe you. I believe you, right? So definitely being an alumni, I heard the name all the time. Always heard the name. And when you even just look at the stats in the career and how decorated, I'm actually would put her ahead of a lot of people. She probably could have made our top 25 list if we go off stats.
Yeah, we should have included Lady Hoopers.
She can make the top 25 list if we include the Lady Hooper stats wise, right? So one of the good things about the podcast, kids, we actually take into account of what the audience say and who they want to see. So when they said they want to see a female hooper, we both came and said, you know what? This is the person we got to bring on.
Top of the
first
list.
Name we said was this person. We got to bring her on. And I'm excited to hear her story, man, all the accomplishments she made. And then she's a ladies' Bulldogs, right? So, that's a fraternity in itself, right? You Bulldog blood. We part of the same fraternity, man. So, man, let's welcome Alexis Gray-Lawson. Welcome to the Rec Center podcast.
Hey, what's going on, Lex?
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for coming on. We honored. We feel honored to have you on, man. And like I just said, man, we bulldog bread around here, man. And me and Ken go talk to you later on because I believe the time that you was at Tech, it was you, Devin A. I think Marshawn was there a little while. Josh Johnson was there a little while. Leon Poe and Quentin was there. And I want to debate, was that the best athletic time for Oakland Tech? Like all around, was that the best? That definitely walking through that hallway, it was like, hey, I'm going to Cal. I'm going to Cal. I'm going to the lead. I'm going to the lead, right? Definitely got to be one of the best times for Tech walking through that hallway, man. So, welcome to the show, Alexis. This is the Rec Center podcast, and we always ask guests this first question, man. You came up balling. What Rec Center did you used to play at as a kid?
Rainbow. Easy. If you didn't come from Rainbow, then it wasn't worth it.
Rainbow in the heart of seminary. Rainbow in the heart of seminary, right? So when you playing down there and you coming up being young and hooping, did you just play with the boys a lot down at Rainbow? And how much did they have an influence on your game?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy how I got into girls basketball because I actually played boys basketball up until I was probably maybe 12. And what happened was I was playing for St. Cyril's, which used to be off of seminary a long time ago. And my coach was like, hey, we're going to practice at Rainbow. So I did all my workouts, everything at Rainbow. And right after I practiced, Tim Pierce Sr. used to have workouts. And so he had workouts with like Devin A. and Allende and Tim Pierce. And I mean, a whole bunch of guys, Scooter. I mean, it was a whole bunch of dudes up there and they were always playing. So I would always stay after and he'd be like, girl, come play. And I would be like, all right, cool. So we would just run all day. And that's kind of was my journey into girls basketball. Pico was working there at the time and he was like, hey, you should come play for me. And I was like, man, I don't really want to play with no other girls. And he was like, no, like these girls is good. And it just happened to be like, I would say, honestly, that team is probably one of the best middle school teams, period, from the Bay Area. I mean, hands down. I mean, all of us went off to play either D1 or all started in high school together. So it was a process, but it was definitely worth it. But Rainbow definitely taught me how to be.
Who were some of the girls on that middle school team with you?
It was Shauna Holmes who went over to Castlemont, myself, Devin A, Chantel Sneed who went to Cal with us. Who else was on that team? Shay Rollins, her brother is Jimmy Rollins that plays for
Went to SNL.
Phillies,
Yep.
the Phillies.
Yep, she went over. Yep. So she went over to SNL and played really well. Man, I mean, we had all time. I mean, Kiki Waters. I mean, we had a whole bunch of people that. I mean, that team was just stacked. Leah Manning, who ended up coming to Tech with us. I mean, yeah, we just had our team was just stacked. I mean, it just was stacked.
So after you guys had this stacked team for middle school, did you guys come up with like, hey, you know, we gonna let's try to all go to the same high school together, or was it just you and Devin A had this, hey man, I'm gonna go to Tech, you come to Tech with us, and let's just go run things. How did that come about that you guys went to separate schools, but you and Devin A stayed together?
Honestly, me and Devin A didn't stay together. What ended up happening was so I had every plan to go to Castlemont. So that was like the school I was going to. I had no plan on going to Tech. So what happened was that my 8th grade year, I ended up playing on an AAU basketball team with some of the Castlemont kids. And there were some Tech kids that happened to be on that team. And I just happened to click really well with the kids at Tech. And I just at the last minute, like literally probably maybe 2 days before school started, that I was going to go to Tech. So I ended up going there by like solo. Devin A ended up going to Berkeley High because at that time they had Gino Nakamura that was there, and I mean obviously he was super legendary and everybody wanted to play for him. I wanted to kind of have my own path. I didn't want to go to a school that anybody else won at. I kind of just wanted to do my own thing, and so got to Oakland Tech, and I mean, yeah, we ended up going against having some battles for sure against Oakland High and some other people, and we was the underdogs. Tech at that time, I mean, their girls basketball program was probably second to last, at least in the league every year. So to go from that to winning it all of a sudden, and then, you know, everybody's like, oh man, you know, this was all Lex, but really, you know, I had some super, super dope vets that, you know, made sure that I was always in line and I did what I needed to do. So it was good. Devin, I think came like my sophomore.
Hey, I feel proud now, Alexis, because every show we had, it was people that went to Tech and then they transferred out of Tech and left us, right? So to say that you actually came to Tech when you were starting to go to another school, I feel proud now because I'm like, yo, why everybody was leaving? So I'm glad to see that you came. And it's one of the good things about you guys coming is what you guys did for Tech during them years is they still reaping the benefits of that now because they was in their second state championship this year, you know. So definitely that came from the groundwork that you guys laid, like that. And one of the things you said about wanting to create your own path, when you started about going to Castlemont, was it because of how the history that Castlemont had in the late '90s? Because they was a really good team. What made you want to go to Castlemont? Like that was your school at first?
Nah, I mean honestly, I really didn't even really know about, you know, anybody's championships or none of that. I probably really started paying attention maybe 8th grade year. I liked Castlemont. I mean, even Castlemont was winning everything, as far as on the girls basketball side. So Castlemont was a team that was like almost there, but they needed a piece. And so, you know, I had talked to the coaches there, brothers, and they click with my mom. And, you know, when my mama say do something, I gotta do it. So that pretty much is how I got to the Castlemont scene. They just literally they saw me play one time and it was like, that's my kid. And so they kind of reached out and made sure that I got to where I needed to go. And, you know, my mom loved that about that. And I clicked with the coaches and their families and, you know, they treated me like their own. So I'm always big on loyalty. So that's where I was going.
Absolutely. So, like you mentioned, Coach Gene over at Berkeley High, you know, and all of the girls was going there. This like right after Aisha Hollins them played there, and they was winning and things like that. why did when Devin A came over to Tech, whether it was like, okay, cool, now we back together, let's go win OAL championships, or how was it when she first arrived at Tech with you?
So, like me and Devin A, have always been like super close. So I think for me, it was really like, I'm a competitor. I want to win at everything. I don't care how old you are. You could be, I got a 3-year-old son and I want to beat him in basketball. Like I'm just like that. And I think I'm naturally like that. So I think that first year we won the OAL and then we end up having to play Midi in the first round to go to state. And we got our butts kicked. And I think that was probably one of the largest losses that I had ever had in my career. It was like we lost by like 30, and I literally the next day was in the gym. So for me, I was gonna win. I didn't care who was gonna be on my team. I was gonna win state, and I had been claiming it. I believe that if you speak things into existence, things happen. And so I had been claiming and saying like, hey, I'm gonna win state in high school, and my coaches loved that about me. And then adding Devin A was like, oh man, we got this. This is about to happen. Now I don't know when it's gonna happen, but this is for sure about to happen. So, we like the Shaq and Kobe, literally personalities wise as well. So, we were like, this is what we're gonna do, and we got it done.
Where did you get that competitive nature from? Like, were you competitive where I'll lose by 30 to a strong midi team who always got a strong team, but says, you know what, I'm back in the gym getting to it. Where did that competitive nature come from?
I mean, my favorite player is Kobe. So, I mean, from a really young age, my parents are competitive. Obviously my dad, played baseball for a really long time, and he has like a competitive edge. So my mom played volleyball, even in college. So, my parents were super competitive when it came to sports. I'm all about wanting to better yourself every day, and so for me, I never wanted to be the kid that they say somebody else could be like, oh man, they just don't work hard enough. So I don't know if it's just because I was born in Oakland and that's just a part of who I am, but I always had something to prove. I always had a chip on my shoulder, no matter, it's funny because we were having this conversation yesterday because we went to play pickup at the park, which is crazy because everybody like, you still play at the park? Yes, I still play at the park. We're playing pickup at the park, and we were talking about it, like just having a competitive edge. Like if you're from Oakland, like, you always want to prove that you're the best, period. I mean, so for me, even though people were saying that I was number one, I challenged number two to come and see me. When we were on the road and we were playing against people that were ranked higher than me or whatever, I was picking them up 94 feet, like, yo, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So that's just who I am, and so, I think that's what a lot of coaches loved about me, was that I was just like, I don't care, you got a name, okay, let me go take your name. So that's kind of like was my thought every time I played. And it didn't matter who, whether I was playing against Mac, who wasn't so good when I was in high school and we was blowing them out by 50 or 60, I didn't care. Like, I was going to play you like I played everyone else. I'm never going to lower my expectations or how I was going to play or nothing else. So, yeah, I mean, Kobe was like that too, right? Like, he was he's just an animal. And how he looks at the game, how he views the game, I wanted that same mentality. It was important.
You got me ready to go play.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Let's
go. Hey, but you're absolutely right when you say that Oakland mentality, that grit that it brings, whether we playing, I don't care what we playing, we flipping quarters. Hey. I'm gonna have to beat you flipping quarters, right? Hey. And then you look at this run Dame Lillard on right now, and he's really showing that Oakland mentality come out of him. He's not backing down. He's telling them, hey man, I'm from Oakland. Y'all, I'm not jumping on no teams. I'm not clicking up. This is who I am. And we watch them do it. And it's something about these streets of Oakland that breathes that in us, right? Regardless, wherever we want to go. Ken going to where he went to college at, where I went to college at, we bringing Oakland with us. So we ain't just bringing it saying it's different. We're not saying we from the Bay Area. We from Oakland.
We from Oakland.
And that just
we come from the bottom more. Well, you know, when people talk about, it's funny because when people talk about California, right? Like, you know, first thing they bring up is LA, you know, like the
LA.
sun, the love, the, you know, the beaches, the whatever, but no one ever stops to talk about Oakland, you know what I'm saying? And we're the best part of California, in
That's what
my
I
opinion,
think.
you know,
Yeah,
like,
hell yeah.
you know, so it's
Absolutely.
crazy. Like people never talk about Oakland or the Bay or like, you know, what comes out of here. So for me, it's always important to rep that because, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when you walk out into the city, you a representation of where you come from, period. So for me, I always wanted to represent it the same light. I always wanted to show like, yeah, this is what Oakland kids look like. And it's crazy because everyone's mentality of who we are is way different than what the expectation is. You know, and it's a great example
Absolutely.
that I went to the league and I will never forget what we was, I don't know, we was playing, we were playing against the team and I literally had somebody come up to me like, oh man, like, was you in the gang? You know, were you doing this? You know, were you doing that? You from Oakland? You know, they killing everybody, you know, da 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 da. And I'm like, man, y'all gotta stop watching TV, man. Y'all gotta stop watching TV. Like, you know, like, it's not as bad as you think it is. And then you come here and you're like, yo, this city is beautiful. You get to get, you know, you see all these people, black people at the lake enjoying each other. And then
Right.
it changes your whole perspective, you know?
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, I grew up with Coach Pico at Rainbow myself. So talk about what it was like playing for him, because I hear some of the dog that's in you, and that's peak. Like Pico is straight dog too. So he gonna encourage that competitive spirit that you have. And what was it like playing for him?
Pico was great. He was great for, you know, I think we all have those coaches that help us to develop certain things about ourselves. And I think you know, he always talks about like, I always had the package. Like I always had the package. I just needed somebody to unleash the package, right? And he really was that for me. I think he gave me such a different perspective on coaching because, you know, my is were hard on me. So I had like Keys, who was my Boy Scout. He never called me by my name. He always called me girl. He never called me Alexis, right? And then Pico was really like super soft spoken when it came to us. Like I could put him on my hand a couple of times where he actually had to yell at us about something. So it always made me want to be better. It gave me a different perspective of like, oh, you know, somebody could actually have a conversation with me. They ain't had to yell at me. They ain't had to, you know, be on that. But I mean, we ran like crazy because we was always in trouble for something. So, you know, it was like the perfect medium. Like we had both. He had both. It was times where he could be tough, but he always like this crazy amount of love that we needed as girls and as young girls who a lot of us, you know, didn't grow up with our dads, or our dads were busy, or our dads didn't come to basketball games, or so he was really, for me, he was that for me. You know, my dad was busy. My dad had to work. You know, I could probably, you know what I mean? Like, especially in middle school, like, wasn't nobody coming up to my games like that, you know? So he was that for me, you know? So I respected him for it.
I feel like Pico don't need to yell because his like his stature is just so intimidating anyway. It's like you're not gonna run up on him, Pico. You know, he say run, you're gonna be like, man, how fast?
Yeah. Fact.
Who else was tough in the OAO at that time? Player wise, team wise?
So I mean, freshman year, obviously everybody was tough because everybody was good. Everybody had somebody. And then my sophomore year, the ties kind of changed because Castlemont kind of became like this household name in itself. Because they had like Kaisha and Tina. You got two kids that's over 6'2", 6'3". You know what I'm saying? Like nobody else had that except for us and Devin A. Everyone else was little like me. So definitely that. I mean, we literally sold out games every time we played Castlemont. Whether it was at Tech or at Castlemont. And it used to be some of the rowdiest games because everybody, you know, felt like they should win. And I mean, I would say out of all the teams, we probably beat them the less. And I can't even remember beating them by any more than 10 points, if that. So it was always a really good game. And it was great for girls basketball at that time because there were so many kids that was coming up after us, you know, the Brittany boys, you know, the Asia Thomas, like all those guys were literally coming to games and watching us play high school basketball. And that just wasn't a thing at that time, not for girls. So, you know, it was kind of like we were restructuring like the way that people looked at girls basketball. And it's crazy because even now, like, you know, me and Scooter, he went to Fremont and all, you know, Scooter, all those guys, like we were all having a conversation on Facebook, and everyone's talking about, you know, like their top 15 list, right? Their Oakland top 5 team list. And, you know, for guys to ever be like, yo, like for sure, Lex, you on that list is accomplishment in that, because that just is not something that happens. It just doesn't happen. So, you know, I'm grateful for being able to be around those guys and them really being able to bully me and treat me. I mean, they was mean to me. They used to, like, Tim used to, like, two-hand push me out of bounds. Like, Q and was, like real life mean. Like, I and them, like, literally would make me guard them for 94 feet. And then if I didn't, they'd be calling me a punk, or, like, you know, they, like, make me cry, go outside. So it was those matchups that really help define who I was going to be as a basketball player. It was just important to them. I don't think we have that as much now as maybe we did back then. But that era, like, it was important that all of us made it. You know, like, it wasn't about, you know, one of us making it. It was about everybody making it, and everybody supported everybody else. Like, when we went to state, all of them came. Antonio Keller, all of them came to the games, and we knew them, and they knew us, and it was like, you know, this brother-sister love every single time. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would come out and support Tech when Tech was winning every year, or, you know, when football season was in, we would all be at the games against Mac and Tech. You know, it was important that all of us won, because in this, you know, in this society, we think that only one of us needs to win when everybody really can win if we support each other. You know what I'm saying? So it was important to them that I was going to be successful. And I think that's really what pushed me to want to be better, is because I just wanted to represent.
That's the OAL in a nutshell right there. We compete against each other. We fight on the court. We push, elbow, football. We trying to take your head off. But then when we play somebody else outside the OAL, we one family. Yep. You know, and that's even how me and Lo came together. Is like we competed against each other in junior college, but then when we went to university together, it was like, hey, we on the same squad now. Like we won family now. That's dope. Yeah. And even in '99 when Fremont went to the state championship, I was there, you know, rooting them on. It's like they win, we all win.
Facts. Yeah. Facts. I mean, it just couldn't. For me, it was big on that. I mean, because, you know, I mean, I guess I didn't think about it at the time and how, like, I would impact girls basketball for the Bay Area. I wasn't thinking about that. And now it's different. You know, you come back home. You know, I've been gone from Oakland for sure for the last, I don't know, 15, 12 years, like maybe 15, 12. I back like maybe 3 weeks ago, and it's different. You know, girls basketball is different. Yeah. And we got to change that. So.
Yeah, the boy side is different too. It's not the same OAL.
Yeah, it's not the same.
It's not overall competitive how it used to be. You know, the overall competitiveness is what's missing, right? Hey, Alexis, you mentioned how after your 10th grade years when the tide started to change, right? The junior year, you guys win state. What was that first state winning season like?
Oh man, it was amazing. It was now this is gonna sound crazy, but I celebrated actually in practice the next day. We had AAU workouts like literally the next morning, so I didn't get to celebrate as much as I wanted to, but it definitely was a breath of fresh air to win it your first year and just feel like, man, like I did it. But it made me even hungrier to want to do it again, because I knew that everybody was going to come back and be like, all right, that was a fluke, you know, or they wasn't supposed to be there, or they didn't have the best team, or, you know, they could have said a whole bunch of different things. But when you win it the second time and you win it like, you know, at the highest level, you can't dispute that, you know? So, I mean, we went to literally in practice the next morning. Like, when I say like me and Devin was working, we was working. We did not want to lose to nobody. Like, it came to a point where it became an obsession. Like, I just didn't want to lose.
Man, I can imagine what kind of pressure would have won. You guys won it as juniors, so now as seniors, that's even more pressure because you got to win it now. You got to go out with a bang now. McDonald's All-Americans, signing the cow. You got to win a state championship, right? That extra added pressure and mission.
Well, I mean, I think a whole bunch of things happened. So the first thing that happened, it was maybe 3 to 4 days after our teammate passed away. She was in a car accident. Brittany. And so I remember us all being at the funeral and being like super sad and like taken back about like what has happened and just her impact. You know, she didn't play a whole bunch of minutes, but her impact, I think, definitely shook us all in a different way. So it made me realize some things like, you know, things that we take for granted every single day. Like, you know, that could have been me. That could have been any of us. So that was hard. I think then we traveled that summer, and that was the first time that, you know, we did travel basketball, but it was nothing like we did that summer. That summer was, and I'll tell you the crazy part about it. So we ended up playing for this guy named Jerry Gaywood, who is like the godfather of girls basketball in AAU, period. I mean, the man's won probably like 1,000 AAU games and lost probably like 10. He's always had the best teams for years. I mean, you talking about the guy. I mean, this is the same guy that's coached, besides me and Devin A, Courtney, and Ashley. He's had probably the most McDonald's All-Americans, period. He had Sade Gatewood. He had Alexis Hornbuckle. He had Candace Parker. He had Cappy Poindexter at a point in time. I mean, he's literally like had everyone at some point. Jackie Germellos. I mean, the list just continues to go, and he had a different mentality than Pico. So this is a dude. He's from LA, and I mean, when you talk, I mean, this dude is big as Suge Knight. I mean, I ain't even joking. Like, if you see this dude, he's like a big dude. Like, his presence is crazy. But I remember I actually came off the bench. So that was a change. So I came off the bench. What he did was we went out for our first tournament. It was in LA. And I'll never forget it because I was hot. And he made an A and B team. Okay? So Devin A on the A team. Courtney and Ashley on the A team. All these people on the A team. He puts me on the team. Right? So I'm sitting here and I'm hot. Now, anybody know me, like, I'm like, yo, like, this dude don't even know me, right? So we ended up playing the A team in the championship. And so Erica Ariane was their point guard. And at that time, she was the number 1 player in our class. Could shoot like crazy, whatever. So I said, all right, you're going to put me on this B team? All right, I got something for you. So I went up to him for the game. I said, so you put me on the B team, huh? And he looked at me and he laughed. He said, oh, you mad? You call yourself mad? I said, yeah, I'm mad. And he goes, well, show me. I said, I'm going to show you better than I said, your point guard? All right, cool. The whole game, I mean, when I probably went crazy that game. I had like 35 points, 8 steals, like 5 assists. I mean, I was going crazy. And everybody was in the gym. I mean, every college in America was in the gym. That was the first time that I think people saw me in a different light, because at the time I was getting a whole bunch of West Coast offers, but I wasn't really getting like East Coast offers like that. And especially like Power 5 schools, they liked me, but they wasn't like sold on me. I think after that game, like, everybody was sold. I mean, people was coming to me like, yo, like, your game is crazy. Your game is crazy. So I'm like, all right, like cool, whatever. We win the championship. So he puts me back on the 18. But he puts me, on the bench. I don't know what happened where Erica, she didn't show up for a game or something like that. He started me. He never not started me again. Erica went to a different team. I said, don't even trip. I got her again. Don't even worry about it. I got her again. So literally we went out to Blue Williams, which is like the biggest tournament that we could go to for girls basketball. It's like a huge Nike. And the craziest thing happened. And this is not, I'm not even joking. So we had on Nikes because we were a Nike sponsored team. We played the first game. He said, hey, I'll take off them shoes. Right? And I'm like, I ain't giving up my shoes, fool. These was free. You gave them to me. He said, give me your shoes, give me your bag, give me your jerseys. Right? So I'm like, what? Take it off, give him all his stuff. My man comes back 5 minutes later with Reeboks. So he gives us Reebok jerseys, Reebok bags, Reebok shoes because the Nike dude makes him mad, right? So he tells Nike dude, we don't need you. We the best. We don't need you. So the Nike guy is upset. So I'm sitting there like, oh, this is crazy. I had never seen a black man, like say something like that.
Right.
And like mean it and like has the meaning behind it, right? So we were all getting ready for, like a week after Boo Williams, everyone goes to Nike All-American camp. He pulls all of his kids and all the kids that he knows. So at that time, you talk about Epiphany Prince and all these guys that are in the league now, Tina Charles, we all played against each other for millions, like hell of times, right? And so then it comes down to where he invites all of them. He takes all the black kids from Nike, creates a Reebok camp in a weekend.
Wow.
Rents out like this room and creates like a Reebok camp. It was the craziest thing I ever seen. And it made me go, man, I want to be like this dude. Like this dude is like, this is incredible.
Created his own lane.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, after honestly, after that, I mean, it became like when I say like winning was an obsession, it meant more to me than anything else. It was like all the lessons that I had learned, like, like all the conversations that him and I had, it just became like, you got to win, period. There's no excuse to lose. It got to a point where before games, he would like, put your hand in the huddle and, like everybody say team or work hard. He would say blowout.
I never heard that one before.
Before the game, every game he would say blowout. So at that point,
that's intimidating. To be on the other team, I'm tucking my jersey in, getting ready for jump ball, and I hear a girls team yell blowout. That's a team. That's intimidating. That's intimidating.
Alexis, a million coaches.
A million coaches in the gym. Alexis, you mentioned how after that summer you go into your senior year. What was that recruiting like now that all these schools is on your radar? What was your recruiting like?
I mean, I for sure had a letter from everybody in the country. I honestly didn't even really, I mean, I think that as athletes, we think about college, but we don't really think about like all the little things that come along with, the recruiting process itself. And we really didn't have any guidance on, there was no one, when we were growing up, there was no one that we could call to be like, hey, how do we do this? Right. There was no one, especially on the girl side. There was like, there was nobody I could have called. So it was a really difficult process because I just had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I know that law is at almost every school. And I did, that's all I knew. I didn't really know if I was supposed to go to the school because of the coach or if I was supposed to go because I liked the team or because of the program. I just didn't know. So honestly, it's going to sound crazy and I don't suggest anybody else do this, but I literally was asleep one day. Me and Devin were coming back, and she said, "Yo, like I don't want to be recruiting no more because it was so overwhelming." I mean, no, seriously, it was like crazy. I mean, everybody was blowing up our phones. Everybody blowing my parents' phones. My mom already had an idea of where she wanted me to go. She wanted me to go to Stanford or Cal. That was it. I had no other choice in her book, because it was close to home, and they were. I mean, obviously, it's Stanford and Cal. So for her, from the educational side, that was her choice. My dad was kind of like, oh, "I want you to go, a hoop school because so they can get into the league." Me, like I said before, like I'm one of them kids. Like I just didn't want to go to UConn. I didn't want to go to Tennessee. I wasn't really feeling, like the only top school that I was really feeling was Stanford because I love Tara, like for sure. She's probably one of my favorite coaches to watch. So, yeah, I mean, it was just a process, and so at the end of that process, me and Devin decided we wanted to go to school together. We decided that we were going to go to school with some of our other friends, and it just so happened that we all was like, "All right, come on, let's just go to Cal." Like literally, it's like, come on. I mean, like it wasn't like it was a win-win. It was like we was going to a school that was at the bottom of the Pac-10, so we would have been able to build our own brand. And the second piece to it was close to home. We could go home. Me and Devin both had younger siblings, so it was like we could still be home. We could still go to games. We could still be, we don't got to get used to nothing else. We loved the coach who was Karen Horstmeyer at the time. So yeah, I mean, it was like all pluses for me.
Hey, Alexis, you are the second Cal alumni, All American, that came on the show and said, I wanted to go to Stanford at first. Not sure how the alumni base, fan base is going to feel about that, you Cal guys. But one of the good things you mentioned is after the guys like Marshawn and Josh and Lorenzo Alexander and them guys made it, they came back into their neighborhoods, and the people that came after them was able to say, hey, he did it. If I got any questions, I could ask him about recruiting. And now, like, we went through an era where we didn't have nobody to ask, right? And now you have people can ask you about recruiting now. People can ask you about, hey, how does this overwhelming process feel? What's the steps to this overwhelming process? Because it is overwhelming if you're getting all these calls all day. You feel like you can't be a kid anymore. Your youthness is gone, and you got to figure out who can help me make one of the most important decisions in my life. So it's really good that you guys came back. Marshawn them is back and they there because it let the kids of Oakland that come to this gritty town know that, hey, if that person can make it and he went to Tech, then I could go to Tech and make it as well. That's one of the good things about you guys coming back and being back in the community.
For sure. I mean, I think it was, for me, I've always been about the youth. It's always kind of been like my thing. I kind of have like it's weird because I never, people talk about kids. I never imagined that I would have had kids. I never would have imagined that I would even coach or even like kids for that matter. And it's crazy because, I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. So, my 12-year-old was raised in Minnesota, and my 3-year-old, it's different. It's different. I don't know what it is about when you become a parent, but something like completely changed. It was like they were, birth happens and you're like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Right.
Like it's not that bad. But trying to figure out that, like, parenting, and then on top of that, coaching, high school was definitely a learning curve for me. It was a good change of pace that I needed because at that time I was trying to figure out retirement and everything else, and I wanted to do something that was going to be impactful. And for me, I think that I've had all these accomplishments. I've had this great career at Cal. I played pro. I went to WNBA. I did all this stuff. And then, when I became a coach, it was something different. honestly, probably the most proud I was when my kids were able to leave and go to college. And I know that sounds like crazy to a lot of people, but for me, that really was the biggest accomplishment because, you know, my dad has always told me that, like, sometimes your blessing is not necessarily you. You know, it's not
Right,
something
right.
that was for you. It was for someone else. You know, when you go through something, sometimes it's not about you or what your process is. It's really about teaching somebody else is watching you and how you're going to react to something. And so I've never taken that lightly. And I think that because I haven't taken it lightly, it's allowed me to be open and honest with youth around. And you know, like I'm always like, you know, I'm always one of those people like I love free game. You know, my thing is I love giving you free game because free game allowed me to um be impactful. You know what I mean? So um yeah, I'm really excited about being back home because there's a whole bunch of opportunities that are going to come up, and you know they all involve, you know, my city and the youth that reside in it. So, you know, I'm excited about it.
Um, you mentioned being back in the opportunities. One of the great opportunities you got is you're going to be coaching at St. Joe's.
Yep.
Really good team. I watched their season last year, and they've been this close the last 2 years of getting over that hype, over the hump, right? Do you think the coaching and your plow style of play, the 94 feet in your face defense, can help them get over the little hump? You know, they run into the Bishop O'Dowd and Midi every year in the NCS. Do you think you can help them get over that hump with the gritness that you've been taught in your game?
For sure. You know, it's crazy because so when St. Joe's opened up, I had no intention on even applying honestly for the job. So it opened up and I got a call from Brian Gardier and he's like, yo, Lex, like, you know, you want to come back and coach? I'm like, cool, sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm cool with that. And then I went through the process and, you know, I talked to my fiance and she's like, I get to go to California, no more winters. Like, cool, like, let's go. You know, so it was a really easy process. You know, I've been at Como Park in Minnesota for the last 6 seasons. And we've had a whole bunch of success, and we're probably one of the smallest teams. So getting a little bit of more height at St. Joe's will definitely help. But they're really skilled players, and I think that you take on the personality of your coach. You know, like if your coach is super meek and mild, you know, you're gonna play meek and mild. So, you know, for me, you know, I'm always in your face, like, let's do this. Like, I'm hype on the sideline. I'm always going to be my players' biggest cheerleaders, but I'm also going to be sometimes their biggest critics because the reality is we got to learn in this game. So I definitely think that St. Joe's will be different. Um, we'll definitely be different. We'll look different. Definitely a lot more up tempo type of play, more, you know, shooting, more, you know, it's kind of like, you know, it's crazy, but like street ball to the point of, you know, this is where we at. This is how we're going to defend. This is how we're going to play. We're going to get up and down the floor. We're going to score. There's no point in, you know, running plays if you don't got to. So, you know, all those things I think will, and on top of that, we have a lot of people coming back and a lot of people that came in. And so I think just the adjustments that we needed to make as coaches, and I think we'll be fine. I'm excited to get started. I'm a little upset that we got pushed back, but I understand we're in COVID, so we got to kind of make the adjustments.
Absolutely. On your schedule, I'm hoping, man, you get the St. Joe's Oakland Tech matchup. That's a dream matchup that
I
can
got
happen.
Oakland
Tech
High
has
already. I got
you got
Oakland
Oakland
High
High.
already, for sure.
Oh
Oh, so you got
man, that's
Oakland
father
High.
daughter.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I've been planning this one for a long time. I've been waiting a long
Okay.
time to coach against my dad, for sure. And my younger sister Kaya goes there. So, um, yeah, I'm excited about that. You know, that's a good thing that did happen about having to do your schedule over, is that you really can kind of see who you got. But I mean, you know, if Tech want to play me, you know, I'm down. I'm
What is
down.
that
I'm
going?
down.
What's that going to be like game day against Oakland High, or that week? Are you going to talk to Dad, or is
You know,
it?
I keep telling him. So this is his thing. You know, my dad hates to lose. He's very much like me. You know, he lose. He don't want to talk to nobody for days. You know, and it's worse because so he was my high school coach too, and you know that. So I understand what Kaya feels, but he wasn't my head coach. So being my assistant, he had a lot of say with a lot of different things, but you know, I was still able to have Pico, who was kind of like I said, that medium for me. So Kaya got full on dad, where it's like, yeah, 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 yeah. From the time you step on the court to when you go to the house, he want to talk on the ride home, you know. So, you know, I look forward. Kaya may not look forward to it, but when they do lose, you know, I know he ain't gonna want to talk to me. I know he ain't gonna talk.
Are you trying to blow him out? Is it going to be 1, 2, 3
Oh, you already know.
blowout?
You already know it
It
ain't
got
no
to be
first place.
blowout.
You already know.
That's
You
the
already know.
motto. That's the motto, kid. The
Yeah.
motto is blowout. That's the
If it
motto.
was me, he would do the same thing to me.
And then you got bragging rights until the next season, I guess.
The facts. And I can't wait because, you know, we had Sunday. We've been having, you know, went to Sunday dinner last weekend. He think I'm not coming over this weekend. I'm coming over this weekend, you know. So now I'm going to do it every week. I'll make sure I'm on time to Sunday dinner so I can just talk mess the whole time.
That's awesome, man.
That's gonna be a good one, man. You know that Oakland High team, man. I've watched them. I watched them beat Tech in the championship the year that Oakland High won state. I was there. I watched them beat Tech in the championship, and I can't think of this player name that was on Oakland High team, Ken. But she was nice. I wanted. They said she was got a scholarship to UNLV, or whatever school she was going to, but she was nice. She was like Russell Westbrook for Oakland High that year, man. And I'm like, hey, this girl is nice. And I became a fan of it. They upset Tech. I'm all for women's basketball. And if we get a Tech matchup and you play Tech, make sure you invite me and Ken because I got to come.
For sure.
I got to see the him. Hope at Tech, right? Did Tech retire your jersey? We got that's
yep, they did.
The dream matchup. Is retire that. We definitely would be there for that matchup too. So definitely come. I'm a fan of women's basketball.
What was that McDonald's All-American experience
like? Let's see. So we find out kind of like randomly. So they call your high school coach. We were on the bus when we found out I think we were going to play in an OAO game. And so you find out pretty early. And then once that happens, we were in South Bend. So we flew out to South Bend, and they do an amazing job at like giving back to kids. I mean, it's an amazing experience. So what they did was we went out to the Ronald McDonald House, for like a couple hours. And that Ronald McDonald House is, kids that, have, different cancers or different issues or problems that they have to deal with, from a health standpoint. And we got to just sit and hang out with them, which was for me super cool. Afterwards, you have to do, obviously you have practice. They have a meet and greet with the guys' side. So that year, it was like Danny Green and Lou Williams and Mario Chalmers and a lot of those guys. And it was fun. Gerald Green as well. So it was super fun. We got to kind of like just hang out and kick it, and you have to get dressed for like this great dinner they put on, and so they buy everyone like either a dress or a suit, and so you get to pick from 3 dresses, and that was different. And then yeah, I mean it was super cool. It was really laid back and chilled, and then they had like a thing downstairs where you can kind of like play video games and like do a whole bunch of different stuff or like snacks, and but it was overall, it was a great experience. And then you got to compete the next day. Or I think that like Saturday night was like the dunk contest, and so you get to watch that and be a part of that, and do the 3-point contest and all that stuff. And then the next day was the game. And so you got to just see a whole bunch of people that you knew was either going to be, the ones in in college, or that were going to go to the league. And so you just kind of got to build all these great connections that people that you have been playing with or against a really long time. So, you got to hang out, with just kind of everybody. And it was just fun. To me, that was the best part. It's a little bit of a draining week because you go from there to Adidas or Nike. So we literally got on a bus like the next morning after the game, and like literally had to drive down to I think I was at Adidas, and I think Devin A went to Nike. And it was just a process, just like a long thing, but it was fun. I mean, it was super fun. Just to be around everybody and pretty much all the same people, maybe a few in and outs. But it was great. And then the guys went to Jordan, which was at the same facilities as Adidas and Nike. So it was great. It was great just kind of like just meeting everybody and just being a part of that process.
Let's talk about who were some of the toughest guards you played with in the
toughest guard I had to go with this in the league. Most definitely Diana Taurasi, for sure. Diana's just a different beast in itself. Luckily, my first couple of years, I got a chance to be on her team and really learn from her and really just soak in. I mean, she is our Kobe for girls basketball, period. Really probably even the Michael Jordan. I mean, I wouldn't give her the Michael Jordan because you obviously have the Cynthia Coopers and, all those guys, but definitely the Kobe of our group. And it was great just being able to learn from her. But I would say, yeah, I mean, obviously you got Simone Augustus and having to go against Maya, who, I had known for a really long time at that time. She was my roommate for the Olympics. So, people that you had, like, you grew up just idolizing. I got to play against Cappy Poindexter, which everyone always says that our games are so much alike. So I finally got to play against her and just kind of, take in that moment. But yeah, I think as a rookie, you could definitely come in a little starstruck because you're like, this is crazy. So
Maya Moore, that's my outside of the Oakland players. Maya Moore, that's my favorite. That's my WNBA crush too. So when she retired, I was like, damn. But it's great what she's doing now with the prison reform and helping innocent prisoners get released. So definitely something bigger than her.
Maya is probably, I'm not even gonna lie, she's probably one of my favorite people. As far as like, when you outside your family, like Maya, she genuinely cares about people and how they're going to react to life and what their life looks like. So my dad, like, I wasn't supposed to go to the Olympics, which is crazy. So I got invited. I went out to the trials. And I actually found out maybe a day before we actually left to go to Serbia, or maybe it was a couple of days before, my dad had cancer. And so I actually was not going to go. I was going to stay home with my dad. And so I think just my teammates understood that process. They found out. And so I ended up being like the flag bearer that year, where I got to carry the flag for my dad, which was a crazy honor to be able to like just represent the USA and that whole process. It's also a scary thing that you have to deal with too, because a lot of people booed us. And I think I didn't understand that impact really until, much later. But yeah, I mean, it's different, international basketball. That was my first real taste of like international basketball and what it looked like. So, yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. So on draft night, like, was the WNBA, was that a goal of yours, something you wanted, or did it just happen because you were so damn good?
I think that everybody, I mean, I had always aspired to play in the league for sure. I know one of the things that we had, me and my parents had talked about was, if this doesn't work out, then what? Kind of thing. So draft night was definitely different for me because um, I actually did it in Oakland. And I think everybody wants to be in New York and everybody wants to have that experience and be a part of that. But for me, I felt like, it was important that I was home. And so just hearing your name, I think, and people validating that you are one of the best, I think definitely was, a thank God moment. But I mean, I think for me, it was, everybody reacting, everybody was jumping up and down, and everybody was like, you don't have any type of reaction to anything all the time. And, I kind of sat there and I just, one with myself. It was kind of like one of those things like, all the parties that you missed, all of the times that you didn't get to spend time with friends or weren't able to build relationships, or, all the things that you had to give up to be here. I think that people don't understand that process and don't understand that grind of what it really takes to get there and the things that you have to give up. And I think at that moment I was like, thank you, thank you, God, because there's no way, I wasn't supposed to be here according to everyone else, right? I'm this kid from Oakland. There's no way this kid from Oakland that has the skin complexion like I do is supposed to be here. And I think in that moment, it just made me more and more grateful. So yeah, I just took it in. It was really a powerful moment for me because I think it just taught me so much. Just I don't know how to explain it, but it was just a overall crazy feeling for sure.
A lot of great players have a hard time transitioning into coaching because they expect all their players to be as great as them. But you seem to have a lot of success as a coach. How do you think you're able to kind of like channel that down and just let your players blossom and evolve at their own rate?
Like I said, I think I having such a variety of coaches and different type of coaches. Even though I wasn't coached by Sue at Midi, I got to watch her a lot because we played them a lot. So I got to watch how she interacted with her players and how much love they have for her. I mean, her players love her. They would run into a wall for her. So having that, having my dad's fiery side, having Pico's, maybe softer side, and having just compassion for other people. I actually went in more as it not being a way to necessarily play at the next level, because I think, for me, it was important to get out of Oakland and not necessarily even say get out of Oakland, but just get out of this space of being, like that toxic thing that comes sometimes with it. But the one thing that I wanted for my players in general is like, I wanted to teach them all the things that I didn't get taught, all the things that I wanted to know, all the things that I wish somebody took the time to pay attention to as a female. Because when you have male coaches, they don't understand some of the things that you go through as a female, the changes that you go through, the mental side of the game that you go through, the constant, and then especially in this particular era, not so much when I was growing up, but like what you look like and how you carry yourself, and the way that you sound. Are you too dark? Are you too light? Are you, like there's so much of that in girls basketball right now, that for me, it was really important to impact them from a standpoint of how do I get you out of here, but it not being about basketball. Basketball just was the stepping stone, if that makes sense. So I went in with a different perspective. I didn't go in to necessarily coach them to be basketball players. I wanted to coach them at life. Because I think that's where a lot of coaches miss the mark and a lot of players miss the mark, is that we don't teach kids the things that we needed to know. So, you know, it was important, you know, I'm one of those people where I'm a dreamer. You know, it's crazy to say that, but I really am. Anything that I have set my mind onto, I've done, you know, and so I wanted to teach my kids not only by example, but I also want to teach them just, you know, life. So we had, you know, my first year, um, I literally did it. It's crazy, but this is really what happens to me. I'll dream something or I think about something in the middle of the night and I'm waking up and I'm trying to wake up my fiance like, yo, this is what I want to do. And she's like, yo, you crazy. Like, go back to bed, you know? But I have a lot of those moments where I like just wake up one day and I'm like, yo, like, this is what I want to do. And so we ended up creating a platform where we had other successful women come in and talk about that have played sports that didn't necessarily want to play at the WNBA level, right? Because not everybody wants to do that. Um, had all these professional women come in and women of color come in because my team was women of color and they came in to mentor them. And so we had a mentor program where it just they got to try different things. They got to have experience at what it looks like to be in an office, what it looks like to be in a law firm, what it looks like to be a doctor or, you know, a psychologist. You know, like I think that so many times we as coaches look at the small little bubble of what our kids can become, but I do believe that if you give them the tools to be successful, they will be. So um, you know, we created that. We created a program where I wanted to make sure our kids ate all the time, right? Because we take for granted that you know not everybody mama is at the house cooking, every day. So we had a program after school where you know each one of our parents or myself or my fiance would come in and you know cook meals and have different stuff for them. We had you know a whole bunch of team building exercises where we talked about you know women's health and getting um, you know breast exams and um, just different things. We just had a whole bunch of different ideas. I also wanted to teach, you know, in Minnesota, because it's in the Midwest, we don't get a whole bunch of love when it comes to learning about like what an HBCU was. And so I didn't go to an HBCU, but I think that they're super important on so many levels. So what we did was, you know, my kids get homework. They think it sucks, but eventually they're like, oh, this isn't that bad. They had to do a project on an HBCU. You know, during the second part of the year, they have to do a project on someone of their nationality, whether it be Native American, you know, African American, whatever. They had to research and do research on people that look like them and be able to find find the common ground, right? So there's so many we take for granted that in high school and in middle school we have Black History programs. They don't have them anymore. Yeah. So kids don't even outside of Martin and Malcolm, they don't know nobody else. And not only do they not know nobody else, they can't even tell you key pieces about them. So it became important for my kids to learn more about who they are, where they come from, and all of that, because I don't think that you truly can go forward without looking behind and really grasping what that means, right? So if we only know about slavery, then that's all we know. But we don't understand that, you know, our ancestors were kings and queens and we were royalty and all that stuff. So we don't aspire to it, right? So we only have like this short little thought process. So all those things, I think, is the thing that my kids learned in the 5 years. And so those things became more important to me. And, you know, obviously it not just happening for my team. So I would invite, you know, anybody, if anybody would come in. So if we had like an event or whatever, you know, where the mentors came in, I would invite any kid that wanted to come, not just my kids. So we would have 100, maybe 200 kids in the gym with their parents, and we would feed all of them. And it comes out of my pocket, right? And so everybody else is like, yo, like this is crazy expensive. This is all, you know, this is this, that, and the other. But to me, those things are important for a community. Those things are important. You know, learning your worth and who you are and where you come from can only help you. I mean, so I had out of the 5 years, we've had 32 graduate from high school. So out of the 32, 32 went to college. Those things to me are important. And all of them went on scholarship, whether it be athletic or academic. When I started in the program, we were at I think a 2.16. When I finished in the program, we were at 3.8. All those things become way more important than the other stuff. Now, because we've had so much success, and people don't think this is true, but I think when you have everything else working for you, the basketball part works for you because you end up spending so much time together. Because we spend so much time together, we won, I think, the league 5 years in a row. Out of the 5 years, we had no losses in the league at all. They have like the Twin Cities game, which is it would be similar to like our section game. We've won that 5 years in a row. We've gotten a state twice. So I mean, we've gotten to our section championship every year, and like the last 2 years we lost. So I mean, it was really just focusing on what I can control, and because I can control the other stuff, the basketball part stuff is easy. That's easy to teach.
See, that's what I love about doing the podcast, Lo, is like you think you know somebody through newspaper clippings and highlights, and you really have no idea, man. Like I had no clue. It's like if I had a daughter that was playing hoop, she's going to St. Joe's. For the simple fact that it's not about basketball or whatever sport. It's about developing a well-rounded individual. And that's what high school and really any level of sports, but definitely at the high school level, that's what should be the main concern.
And if it is, it'd be great.
But Ken, this is Oakland. This is the Rec Center podcast, and Alexis cannot get out of here without me putting her on the spot like I did everybody else, right? So Alexis, my question to you, right? I'm not going to say who's the most overrated player you played against. No, because underrated because girls basketball is underrated as a whole, right? They don't get all the just due. Like the everything that you went through, your grind, let me know that girls basketball is underrated because if it was a guy, we retiring, they got a day in Oakland. They'd be giving them a day if you were the guy that did all of these things, right? Now, here goes my question to you. It's an on-the-spot question. Pick two boys that played in the OEL during your time that you feel you could have beaten them one-on-one.
All of them.
All of them. That's Oakland, kid. That's the Oakland mentality. I will beat all of them.
So, I played against Allende a couple times. I don't think I've ever beaten Allende, but I've definitely come close. So, if he's giving you 20, I'm for sure giving you at least 15. And then Tim was just a bully. Like he wouldn't even shoot. He was just like, he was just ridiculous. So if I had to say really beat people, I honestly I probably could have been fine on the boys' side. No way up. I would have been fine.
Hey, Lo, that's facts though. Like I said, I played the pickup game with Alexis one time at Oakland High. Was no drop off. It wasn't like, get the ball to the man that she guarding, or when she get the ball, amp up the pressure and take it from. It was just like, hey, it's 10 on the floor. So I agree. She could play on the boys' side of the OEL and hold her own. That's facts.
Yeah. She just said she gave Allende 15. Allende got seven defense up, Ken. He got 15 drops on him.
We all know that. And after this, I'm sure he's going to see this and he'll be like, oh, really? For
real?
I'm
going to take this clip and send it to him.
All he's going to say is rent due. That's all he's going to say.
Rent due. That's fun. We definitely going to post this one on Instagram.
Alexis, it was a pleasure having you on our show. I really appreciate it. Really honored that you came on and told us your story. I know that Minnesota school is hating to see you leave. All of the things you brought to the program, I know they hating to see you leave, and we about to hate to see you leave as well. But before you go, can you sign us out with a few words?
Yeah, man. Thank you for first having me. Like I said, I can't wait to just change girls basketball here in the Bay. I'm excited about bringing real girls basketball to Oakland, and I'm gonna have AAU next summer, so that'll be fun. And so, yeah, I'll keep y'all in the loop. But when I make sure I get y'all a calendar to some games, some schedules.
Oh,
So y'all can follow.
absolutely.
Who do you think
Absolutely. I wanna-
what Lady Hoopers do you think we should get on the show?
Man, my whole crew. What you mean? You gotta definitely for sure gotta get Devin A. She at the house anyway, cause she tore her ACL, so she at the crib. So y'all can call her. So Devin A is home. Kaisha is she's back in Arkansas, but she was just here. Even Marisha, who played with us at Tech, just having her perspective of brother as a superstar and just having that adjustment. Who else is here? Asia Thomas is here. So Asia, that was at Cal and was at Bishop O'Dowd, is now my assistant at St. Joe's. So that'll be good. So Asia would probably be the number one person to talk to next, because she's definitely gonna bring a different element as far as just life, not playing basketball and having such a great career at Cal and choosing, this is what I'm gonna do. Either I'm just gonna go into coaching. So having that perspective for sure. So y'all got some good choices.
All right. Well, you got to hook it up.
I would have loved to see. I would have loved to see Asia. What's the other one name? Roberson. I would have loved to see Asia, Roberson, and what's the Boyd. I would have loved to see them playing in the OEL. I would have loved that to keep that thing going, man. What you guys started, because they came after y'all and they had Bishop O'Dowd and they won state championship as well, right?
Yep.
I
think it would have been great. They have it. Did I tell y'all they have in the WNBA league? So the WNBA league is coming out. So it'll be in October. I'm actually coming out of retirement for it. So yeah. And that's really the only reason why I'm coming out of retirement, so my kids can finally see me play and have that experience. Because I think it's a little bit weird for, especially my 12-year-old, because in Minnesota, I'm just Coach Lex, and everybody just kind of knows me as that. And I think being back here in the Bay, it's like, wait, who? Like, what? Because everybody's like, oh man, your mom is so good. Like, she's the GOAT. You tripping? And then she's like, what are you talking about? Like, no, she's not. Like,
my mom don't play. My mom don't play. Right.
Exactly. So I think just have, like me being able to come out of retirement and have that process, it'll be fun. It'll definitely be fun.
Absolutely.
So,
thanks a lot for coming on, Alexis. Thanks a lot. Plug us in with any of them women that we need to get on the show, and I appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Hey, Ken, you know what we need? We need one woman baller that could come help us put together a top 15 women's list.
Yeah, it'd be good.
We might get a lot of text messages, DMs, and mad about it, but it happens. It's a list. It happens with every list that get created. But I would love to see that top 15 list, because besides Castlemont run in the late 90s, you have Fremont run in the early 90s, mid 90s. You had,
Oakland High had a minute.
Oakland High had a minute with Nicole and them, that team with Nicole and them, and Tawana and them, that team.
Yep.
My cousin Tate and them team has a few players, and I would love to see top 15
Let's release it.
Might as well do it. Might as well do the top 15 women's list. We just need one woman baller to put us in check, because we missed a lot of that. I want to see it. We definitely got the what's them girls' names from Berkeley High, Aisha and them crew.
Aisha,
you got the Paris twins over at Piedmont. So that'd be a crazy list. I'm gonna leave that task to you, Ken.
I'm good with the OAL. I know who was balling in the OAL. Some of the other schools, I just know the superstars. Like you got to put Aisha Hollins on there, and then Mia Fisher over at Amador Valley. You got to put her on there.
The one that had the shot, the shooter, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It was a young lady went to St. Mary's College out of Miramani. you got to put her on there.
But then them strong Carondelet teams.
Carondelet teams, yeah. Because I think one of the Carondelet girls, don't quote me, I think her name was like Julie Morris or something. But I think she went to Stanford. Jane Appel, Ionescu. Man, it's going to be, it depending on the year gap we do, it's going to be tough. But yeah, man, hey, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. We just got to tag a female baller that can put us in perspective because we got to stop at 05. We got to stop at 05 and just deal with the consequences of that one.
It's going to be fun, though. It's going to be fun.
Fremont had some dope teams back then, man. Absolutely. I would love to see that. McClymonds had some. So we might as well do it. Let's put it out next week. Put it out next week. We should have did it before Alexis came on because he could have talked about the list from the girl perspective, right? So before the next girl come on, we got to have a list out. Got to have a list out.
Absolutely.
Man, but shout out to Alexis for coming on, man. A lot of humble me and how underrated women's basketball is in Oakland. To say that the team she played against Castlemont gave her closer games than other teams that she played with in state and an AAU team, all-star AAU team, but this team give you the hardest problem right here in Oakland, right? That's just the competitive of the OAL, man. We talk about it a lot. We need, shout out to our last guest, Bird Wainwright, man. We need him to release that OAL documentary so that people outside of Oakland can really see what it is we're talking about.
Yep, for sure.
So shout out to our next guest, man. You know who we need? We need Antonio Kellogg on next. That's the next guest, man. I just saw a tweet where somebody asked Dame Lillard who was the best player that he ever played against that never made it to the NBA. First person he said was Antonio Kellogg.
Wow.
Man, we definitely got he said two names. There's only two names on there he said Antonio Kellogg and Hook Mitchell. But to be mentioned above all of them, man, we got to get Antonio on and hear the story, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Most definitely. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. Check us out on Instagram at the Rec Center Podcast. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Rec Center. I'm Kenny Edwards. For Lorenzo Parham, we out of here.